"A black coffee, please," Arthur Bishop, 76, murmured, his voice rough from lack of use. He huddled in the corner of the busy airport cafe, trying to disappear into the background. The only clue to his past was the faint eagle, globe, and anchor tattoo peeking out from under his worn flannel sleeve, a mark he assumed everyone had long since forgotten. Suddenly, a young man in a crisp navy uniform, a sealed trident gleaming on his chest, froze in his tracks. His coffee order forgotten, he stared at the tattoo on Arthur's wrist, disbelief etching his expression. Arthur Bishop preferred to remain invisible, not out of fear but from a deep-rooted fatigue and a hunger for anonymity. His small, rented room on the edge of the city served as his refuge, filled with old books and the lingering memories of comrades who had long since passed. He lived on a modest pension, structuring his days around solitary walks and occasional trips to the VA clinic for the aches that lingered from his time in the U.S. Marine Corps, particularly within the elite force reconnaissance units. He had operated in places that didn't appear on maps, participated in missions still locked behind layers of classification. He spoke of none of it. The memories were his burden to carry alone. Today, however, he was on a rare journey. His only granddaughter, a bright young woman, was graduating from college on the West Coast, and he had scraped together enough money for a bus ticket, embarking on a long, uncomfortable trip across the country. Now, he was stuck in an airport, during a lengthy layover. He had found a relatively quiet corner in the crowded cafe, hoping to nurse a single coffee for hours until his bus was called. He dressed in his usual unremarkable outfit, worn jeans, a faded flannel shirt with sleeves, rolled to his forearms and an old baseball cap pulled low. As he reached for his wallet, the cuff of his shirt inched upward, revealing the faded Marine Corps eagle, globe, and anchor tattoo, with a barely noticeable diver's helmet integrated into it, the unofficial emblem of the pioneering UDT recon swimmers of his era. Few would recognize it. Fewer still understood its full significance. The cafe buzzed with travelers rushing past, absorbed in their phones, conversations, and frantic itineraries. Arthur felt like a stone lodged in a swift stream, present but unseen. He paid for his coffee with carefully counted change, then retreated to his corner table, sipping the warm liquid as a small comfort. Nearby, a group of young servicemen in crisp uniforms gathered for coffee before heading to their gates. Among them was Petty Officer First Class Michael "Mikey" Diaz, a U.S. Navy SEAL, barely 25, but carrying himself with the quiet, confidence, and watchful eyes of a seasoned operator. He was returning from intense advanced training. Mikey stood in line for his latte, scanning the cafe casually. His gaze passed over Arthur, dismissing him at first glance as just another elderly traveler. But then something made him look again. Perhaps the old man's stillness despite apparent fragility, or a certain posture that resonated with Mikey's own training. As Arthur reached for his cup, his sleeve shifted, clearly exposing the tattoo. Mikey recognized it immediately, an archaic variant of the EGA with that tiny diver's helmet. His training included studying naval special warfare origins, and he'd seen images of that rare tattoo in archives tied to the almost mythical frogmen and reconnaissance pioneers of the Korean and early Vietnam eras. Those men were the precursors to modern SEAL teams and were believed all but gone. His latte order was called, and Mikey took it but didn't move toward his waiting teammates. His eyes stayed locked on Arthur's wrist, then on the old man's lined, weathered face. A sudden jolt, like an electric shock, raced through him. Could this be the same legendary figure whispered about by master chiefs during basic underwater demolition SEAL training? The story spoke of men who achieved the impossible with primitive gear and unyielding courage. Mikey approached Arthur's table slowly, respectfully, his earlier weariness forgotten. Arthur looked up as the young SEAL stopped nearby, surprise flickering in his weary eyes. He certainly hadn't expected anyone, especially a modern warrior, to recognize him. "Excuse me, sir," Mikey began, voice soft yet filled with an unusual intensity. I didn't mean to stare, but that tattoo on your wrist, an original UDT or Force Recon insignia from the 50s or early 60s. Arthur lowered his gaze to his faded ink, then met Mikey's eyes, a ghost of a smile playing on his lips. "Sharp eye you've got there, son," he said quietly. "It's been years since someone recognized that old mark." Mikey's breath caught. It was real. Standing before him was a living link to history, one of the founding fathers of the community he revered. "Sir," Mikey continued, reverence and awe in his tone, "my instructors at Bud S spoke of the men who wore that. They said you were among the originals, those who wrote the book." Arthur chuckled, a dry, rusty sound. "We didn't write much, son. Mostly just tried to stay alive and get the job done. The books came later." He eyed Mikey's gleaming trident on his chest. "You boys have taken it to a whole new level." Just then, Mikey's teammates, wondering why he was taking so long, drifted over. They saw him standing with the old man and noticed the intensity on Mikey's face. "Everything okay, Mikey?" one of them asked. Mikey's face lit with stunned excitement. "Guys," he said, voice hushed, "you're not going to believe this. This gentleman, look at his wrist. That's an original recon diver mark. He's one of them." The other young servicemen, a mix of SEALs and special operations personnel, gathered around, lattes and bags forgotten. Their casual expressions melted away, replaced by disbelief and dawning respect as they recognized the faded ink. For them, it was as if a figure from their most revered history books had suddenly appeared. "Sir," a young lieutenant, now in command of a SEAL platoon, addressed Arthur with genuine humility. "What was your unit, if you don't mind me asking?" "Company A, 1st Force Reconnaissance, 62 to 65 mostly," Arthur replied in a low voice. "Before that, some time with the UDTs out of Little Creek." A collective breath was drawn. Company A, 1st Force Recon, and the Little Creek UDTs, names and dates that held legendary status in their community. The missions undertaken by those early teams were still studied and marveled at for their audacity and courage. "You served with Iron Mike Stratton?" one of the younger SEALs asked, naming a famous figure from that era. Arthur nodded. "Mike was my swim buddy on a few ops. Tough as nails, saved my bacon more than once." He smiled faintly at the memory. The young men exchanged glances. They were conversing with someone who had known their heroes and was a hero himself. A direct link to the foundational ethos of their service. Mikey, still stunned, found his voice. "Sir, we study your era. The things you accomplished with the gear you had, it's unbelievable. You guys invented half the tactics we still use." Arthur waved a dismissive hand. "Necessity, son. Mother of invention. You do what you have to when your life and your buddies' lives depend on it." He surveyed their young, eager faces and the modern gear they carried. "Different world now. Different gear, different threats. But the man, the heart of the warrior, that doesn't change much, I reckon." He paused, then added quietly, "You boys heading out or coming back?" "Coming." "Good." "Back, sir," Arthur said. The lieutenant answered. "Glad you all made it back in training rotation." His gaze drifted to his now cold coffee, and a hint of his earlier weariness returned. The spark ignited by the young man's recognition was fading. He was still just an old man on a long bus trip. Sensing the shift, the lieutenant stepped forward. "Sir, Sergeant Major Bishop, is there anything at all we can do for you? Are you traveling alone? Need assistance?" Arthur felt touched by their genuine concern. "Just waiting on a bus, Lieutenant, heading to my granddaughter's graduation." "Long layover." "A bus, sir?" Mikey blurted out, then flushed at his own rudeness. To think a man like Arthur Bishop was enduring a cross-country bus trip seemed almost sacrilegious to them. The lieutenant quickly intervened. "Sir, with your permission, we'd like to check your travel arrangements. Perhaps we can make something more comfortable. We have contacts with the USO here, and our command liaison often works wonders with the airlines. especially for someone of your stature." Arthur hesitated. He wasn't accustomed to asking for or accepting special treatment. "That's very kind of you, Lieutenant, but I wouldn't want to impose." "No imposition at all." "Sergeant Major," the lieutenant insisted, using the honorific that would likely have been Arthur's terminal rank had he stayed in service. "It would be our distinct honor. Mikey, get on the horn to Master Chief Harris at the SOCOM liaison desk. Explain the situation. Use my name. Tell him it's priority alpha for a founding father." Mikey grinned, pulling out his satellite phone, a far cry from the field radios Arthur once relied on. "Yes, sir." While Mikey made the call, the other young servicemen insisted on buying Arthur fresh coffee and pastries. They listened with rapt attention as he reluctantly shared a few sanitized anecdotes from his service, deflecting praise and emphasizing the bravery of his comrades. Within 20 minutes, everything vaulted into motion. Mikey returned, face beaming. "Sir, Master Chief Harris sends his profound respects. He's spoken with the airport manager and the regional VP for Transcontinental Airlines. Your bus ticket has been upgraded." A gate agent, looking both flustered and deeply respectful, rushed over with a sharply dressed airline executive. "Sergeant Major Bishop," the executive said, "please accept our sincerities. We understand you're traveling to an important family event. We'd be honored if you'd accept a complimentary first-class seat on our direct flight to San Diego, departing in 1 hour from Gate B12. A full honor guard from the local SEAL. Delivery vehicle team will escort you and ensure you're comfortably settled." Arthur was speechless. First class, an honor guard, all because a young SEAL noticed a faded tattoo. The transformation was astonishing. The young SEALs and other operators, now functioning as an informal honor guard, escorted Arthur through the airport. Passengers stared, wondering who this quiet old man could be to draw such respect from elite warriors. At Gate B12, airline staff treated him like royalty, pre-boarding him and settling him into a spacious first-class seat, his old rucksack carefully stowed. Before the cabin door closed, the young lieutenant and Mikey Diaz came aboard one last time. The lieutenant leaned down. "Sergeant Major Bishop," he said, emotion evident in his voice. "Thank you for everything you did, paving the way. It was an honor to meet you." Mikey, standing beside him, rendered a crisp salute. Arthur's eyes glistened unexpectedly as he returned it. "The honor was all mine, son. Stay safe out there. Look after your men." As the plane taxied for takeoff, Arthur gazed out the window, the faded tattoo on his wrist seeming to glow more than it had in years. He hadn't sought recognition or expected it, but for a few brief hours amid a crowded airport, a brotherhood. He thought lost had found him again, bridging decades and experiences, all sparked by a small, faded piece of ink and the keen eye of a young warrior who grasped its profound meaning. The quiet legend had been seen, and for a moment, the shadows had lifted. Because some marks are more than mere tattoos. They are living history, silent, testaments to courage that inspires generations. And sometimes, all it takes is one person to recognize them for the whole world to remember. Subscribe to this channel if you believe in honoring our hidden heroes and the enduring power of the Warrior Brotherhood.